All right, let's jump right in. If you're making stuff online, you've probably been there. One day, your content is super sharp and funny, and the next day, it's a little more serious, a little more academic. That kind of whiplash can really confuse your audience. Well, today we're going to fix that with a really cool and simple framework called the Product Pinocchio Method.
So let me just ask you this, straight up. Does your content actually have a personality? And I don't mean your personality, I mean the project itself. Does it have its own vibe? If you have to pause and think about it, you're in exactly the right place, because today, we're going to build one from scratch.
And this quote right here, it just hits the nail on the head. Without a defined personality, the voice of your content is all over the place. It's like having a friend who acts like a completely different person every time you see them, you know? After a while, you just don't know what to expect, and that uncertainty, it chips away at the trust you're working so hard to build.
So what's the solution? Well, we need to stop being so inconsistent and start building a real identity. And we do that by giving our content a persona. This is where that Product Pinocchio method comes into play. It's all about bringing your project to life, literally.
The idea is actually kind of fun, and it's beautifully simple. You basically treat your project, whether it's a YouTube channel, a newsletter, whatever, as if it were a person. You give it a name, you give it values, you give it a personality. And once you do that, you have this clear, consistent guide for everything you create from that point on. It's all about personification for the sake of clarity.
Okay, enough theory, right? Let's make this super practical. We're not just going to talk about it, we're going to use a specific tool. It's time to get our hands dirty and actually build out your Pinocchio's profile with a simple template.
And here it is, the Pinocchio sheet. Now, don't worry, this is not some massive month-long branding exercise. This is a super focused 10-minute activity. You just ask, what's its role? Is it a wise coach or a fast-talking reporter? What does it believe in? And I love this part. What are its enemies? You know, the bad ideas or cliches it's fighting against? This little sheet becomes your North Star for every decision you make. So, you've got this persona down on paper. That's a huge first step. But now what? How do you actually turn this abstract character into something that shows up in your writing or your videos? Well, the next step is all about turning that profile into practical, everyday rules you can actually follow.
The whole process is really just these 3 simple steps. First, you build the persona with that sheet we just looked at. Second, you translate that persona into a really clear tone of voice. And third, that tone of voice points you directly to the perfect format. See? It's a super logical flow, from identity all the way to execution.
So how do you do that translation? It's easy. Just look at your completed Pinocchio sheet and ask yourself these 3 basic questions. Would your wise mentor persona use long, detailed sentences? Or would your energetic coach use short, punchy ones? The answers to these questions become your 3 golden rules for your tone of voice. Simple as that. And this is where it all really clicks. Your persona doesn't just shape your words, it shapes your entire strategy. If your Pinocchio's whole vibe is practical and quick, then of course you should be making short-form videos. And if it's calm and deep, well then a long-form video or a podcast makes way more sense. The identity literally tells you what format to use. All right, that's a lot of talk. Let's make this crystal clear. I'm going to walk you through a super quick example so you can see exactly how this works from start to finish.
Okay, let's pretend our Pinocchio is the calm and clear reporter. Just from that name alone, you can already get a feel for the personality, right? It sounds clear, objective, maybe a little measured. It's not flashy or loud, it's just trustworthy.
So, based on that persona, we can come up with some rules. Easy. A calm and clear reporter would obviously use short, clear sentences. They would absolutely avoid technical jargon because they want everyone to understand. And to make things real, they'd probably use one concrete example for every big point they make. See how easy it is to translate? So finally, what format does this lead to? Well, something that allows for clarity without being rushed. A 4 to 6 minute video or maybe a slightly longer audio explainer would be perfect. It's long enough to explain things well, but short enough to respect everyone's time, which is exactly what our calm and clear reporter would do.
All right, now it is your turn. We've talked about the problem, the method, we've walked through an example. The final and honestly the most important step is for you to put your own Pinocchio to work.
So I've got a little challenge for you, a 10-minute micro exercise. When this is over, just take 10 minutes. 1. Fill out the Pinocchio sheet for your own project. 2. Write down your 3 tone of voice rules. And 3, this is the magic part, go find the last thing you published and just rewrite the intro using your new rules. I promise you, you will feel the difference instantly.
And here is my final piece of advice. This is not a one-and-done kind of thing. Save that Pinocchio sheet, print it out, tape it to the wall by your desk, whatever you have to do, and consciously use it as a reference for your next 3 pieces of content. That is how you turn this into a real, consistent habit.
So I'll just leave you with this one question to chew on. Who is your project? When you imagine it as a person, who is it? A passionate teacher? A witty best friend? A calm, stoic guide? Figuring that out. That is the first step to creating content that isn't just good, but is consistently, recognizably, and trustworthily yours.